that likes to say AKA at the end of every single statement and loves making Kevin feel just that much tinier.
Or at least that's what he thinks he does. He is not as good as he thinks.
And yet I've succeeded.
So,
anyways.
Folks, if you aren't aware, we do in fact have a guest tonight, who is Matthew J. Rainwater, author of the webcomic Trailer Park Warlock.
Oh.
Matthew, would you like to
Yeah,
introduce
that's
yourself?
me. Sure. I'm a Portland-based cartoonist and illustrator. I make the webcomic Trailer Park Warlock on Webtoon, and I also self-publish Bat Monster, and have also worked in the past on the Plants vs. Zombies comic.
Nice.
Very cool.
Love that game.
So plenty to talk about here. Although, since I forgot, although it's probably better we got our guest in first, well, let's do our first sponsor real quick.
Yes.
Which, of course, is Audible. Folks, if you're not aware of Audible, where have you been last few years, really?
Yeah, and it's been a better part of a decade at this point, I'm pretty dang sure.
Yeah, it's a huge source of audiobooks. There are tens of thousands, including many of our past guests. Taker Soker's on there. All of Brian McKinley's books are on there. Carrie Vaughn's books are on there, and Rice's books are on there. There's tons of people on there.
As well as reference titles as well.
Oh, yes. If you go to audibletrial.com/paranormal-e, audibletrial.com/paranormal-e, you can get a free audiobook, free month membership. It helps the show out. You get an audiobook. If you decide to cancel it, it's yours to keep.
Yep. It's all the awesome. I highly recommend it. It's definitely something interesting to do while you're stuck in traffic on Route 9.
Oh, yeah.
Dear gods.
So where are you joining us from, Matthew?
Right now from my house in Portland. I'm in my studio right now, I guess you could call it. Just chilling out right now, which is kind of welcome. I've been having a pretty full day of going to appointments for home loans and all that adulting stuff, and now I'm kind of chilling out and ready to hang out with y'all and talk with y'all for a little bit.
We actually have a caller.
Wow, we actually have people. You see what you did? You attracted callers.
Hello?
Hello? You're live on the air.
Yes, I was wondering if you could help me out. I'm trying to locate someone by the name of Bess Godin, and she was a special guest, otherwise known as Steampunk
Yes, I know who Steampunk Bess is.
Any way for me to reach her?
If you message me on Facebook, either at Paranormal
I'm sorry?
You can message me on Facebook. I can get in touch with you. That's really the only way I could.
If I message you on Facebook, you can get me in touch with her?
I should be able to. She's one of my friends on Facebook.
Oh, that would be great. I may have. I'm calling because I'm a distant relative of hers.
Okay.
And I was calling for medical. There's some medical issues in our respective families I wanted to talk with her about.
Okay, then yeah, go to Facebook. You can look up Kevin Mears, Meares. You can find the spelling.
Wait, I'm sorry, it's hard to hear you. Say that again.
Kevin Mears, Meares. You can find the spelling in the description.
Sorry, you're really breaking up. 7 years.
Kevin, Kevin, Mears,
Yep.
Meares. Look me up on Facebook.
I got Kevin.
MEARES.
Kevin Nears, Neares.
Yes.
Yes, find me on Facebook. I'll try and get you in touch with her.
Great, and I'm just looking right now, making sure you're right there. I don't see Kevin space Neares.
M as in Mary.
What? Oh, M as in Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
It's certainly helpful when we can help out folks.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with Facebook. Let me just try this here. May have Kevin Mears. Is this you where you have up there? Apparently it's National Drive Like an Asshole Day and no one told me. Is that you?
That's me.
That would be Kevin, yes.
Yes, you found me. Send me a message. I'll help you out after the show's over. Okay? Hello? Are you there?
I'll send you a message now.
Okay.
All right. Cool
I'll
beans.
get back to you later,
Thank-
later
Alright.
tonight.
Thank you very much.
Making connections.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I do
Bye-bye.
apologize about that, Matt. That was unexpected, but medical information is important, so.
We were hoping it was a fan or something.
Yeah. So, to get us back on track, I know many creators hate this question, but I do have to ask, what gave you the idea for a trailer park warlock?
Oh, it was the idea behind that comic came from a lot of different places, but I think most pertinently, I think the character of Jake was inspired by a studio mate I was working under when I was interning at a comic art studio in Portland. And he just had kind of this odd way about him that I don't know how to put it into words, but he inspired the character of Jake, and kind of everything sort of came from coming up with that character. And the whole like warlock and magician motif built from that, basically.
It's snowballed.
I've always been a big fan of like occult history and occult knowledge and stuff like that, and the ideas for Trailer Park Warlock are like comedic takes on occult knowledge, and like for instance, there's a episode coming up where basically like Jake needs to use a cocktail list divine from the Tree of Kabbalah in order to like make a special cocktail to like help put a soul back into a man's body. There's all kinds of like weird stuff in the comic that I just really like riffing on sort of absurd, ridiculous, jokey stuff combined with like this very heavy occult body of storytelling and mythology and ideas, basically.
Yeah, I know. I was amused by the idea of the Equimancer.
Oh, good Lord.
I just have one question for that though. How did he get turned back? It seemed like.
How did he get turned back from the? Are you talking about in the first episode?
Yeah,
Yes.
the first and second episode where he's got a horse's head, and then all of a sudden he's
He went to go see a guy who knows a guy.
he went to see a guy who knows a guy.
Maybe I'll have to make an episode in the future that goes further into that.
Yeah,
but
that seemed like because
I would say my initial telling of that would be a banishing spell, probably.
You want to know what the thing is that you have him go to Jersey, okay? Have him talk to the guy that knows a guy from the Port Authority. Have him say, hey, you got a horse's head. I got a use for a horse's head. Why don't you come here a second? I'll talk about you and I'll make a deal you can't refuse. Watch how quick that head changes back.
everything with us goes back to Jersey.
I'd also point out it's like, or you just send them to me, curse breaking is in my job description.
Or I
There you
could just,
go. You could get a cameo in the series.
or I could mesmerize him into thinking that his head is actually still human.
Well, given the nature of magic and belief in will-shaped reality, that sort of works.
Yeah, mesmerism is awesome.
I guess the other obvious...
I would actually be really interested in incorporating, like, probably some form of, like, mesmerism into the future strips. I'm
okay.
actually...
You're talking in
something
my
that gets kinda
wheelhouse now,
hinted
son.
and early in the storyline is that there's, like, a Mancers Union. So
Okay.
there's this idea that... I'm talking a little bit further into the story than what is revealed right now, but at some point there is going to be like a Mancers Union in the comic, and
Nice.
I really like this idea of having mixing sort of like trades work ethics to like wizards and magicians who are basically like changing the forces of reality. It has just like this kind of a charm to it that I like a lot.
You mean like a league of ethical evil hypnotists?
Which actually exists.
You just made my night.
Yeah, if you have any questions about hypnotists, Baron's a good guy to ask for that.
Baron has hypnotism covered. Brian has vampire lore covered, and I've got the demons, angels, and other theological stuff, and ghosts and fairies. And I'm a jack of all trades. You kind of have to be in this.
It is all the awesome.
But I agree. I like the references. I have to say, by far, one of my favorite jokes in the series, which had me simultaneously going, "It's not supposed to be that," but it's so funny, is the Golem.
Oh yeah, buddy.
And the name on the forehead, particularly.
Hang on. You just told me that there's a golem in it named Buddy.
Yep.
Yes.
And the four-letter name of God.
So there's a joke in which Jake creates a golem to basically get his long overdue payment from a lich who basically is kind of exploiting his work a little bit. And so Jake is making this golem, and he inscribes the four-letter name of God into the golem, but it's not like the typical four-letter name of God you expect. It's Earl. It's E-A-R-L. And this breathes life into this golem. And actually tonight, I was going to say, so tonight the newest episode releases, and it's actually going to go into what is up with the golem he's made. Because the golem keeps growing as it gets through all these as it basically fights skeletons and fights the lich, and returns to Jake, the size of a skyscraper, basically. And so Jake has a new problem on his hand, where he has a giant golem. And
well, clearly you've done research.
Tonight we get to find out more about what's going on with that.
I know you've done research, having read it and knowing some of these things myself. The one thing that occurred to me immediately, I even commented to Amisha, who got you involved tonight, about this, is the thing with golems is, in a lot of the lore, they grow bigger the longer they're around.
Which is really smart.
Buddy seems to be growing a little faster than that.
Yeah, no, he is going a little faster, and so tonight's strip is going to go all in about that, and give an explanation for what is up with Buddy, basically. And I guess I don't want to go into it too much yet, because that strip hasn't been released tonight, and I kind of want to get everybody's interest up. But I hope that what you find out is satisfying enough, given the absurdity of this world that all this stuff takes place in.
You have a golem, and
I do try and give a nod, an important nod to sort of alchemical texts, and it was really interesting actually doing research for some of the stuff in tonight's strip, because I ended up having to do a lot of research, like finding alchemical texts, finding like illustrations that properly, because there are of course multiple. The idea of the golem didn't start with alchemists. It started with Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, but then alchemy sort of took it in, and I wanted to go the alchemy route, because part of the underpinning of Jake's trade basically is like hermetic, syncretic lineages of occult knowledge. So sort of like this idea of like his frame his tradition is kind of coming from these groups, sort of like the OTO or Thelema or other syncretic style mystics who take stuff from all over the place and slapdash it together. And with Jake, I want to like really kind of turn up that slapdash homemade aesthetic to it, where it's it almost like, how is this working? Like, how is this happening?
Yeah, it's interesting that you call him a warlock, because I know as Kevin would probably say, there's a couple of different variations on that word. Sometimes it just means a male witch, but a lot of times it means somebody who gets their power from the devil.
Well,
doesn't it also mean like liar or deceiver or something?
Okay, so etymology of warlock, to the best of my knowledge. The idea that it means a male witch is very recent. As far as I know, it's pretty much bewitched.
Okay.
And I could be wrong. I haven't deeply researched that. Historically, Baron's closer to the truth. It actually means something akin to Oathbreaker.
Yeah.
So even in a magic community, it would historically not have necessarily been a positive.
Right.
It also would definitely be associated with devil worship, but that was more just because any practice of magic in the Middle Ages, most practice of magic in the Middle Ages was associated with devil worship.
Okay. So it's not specifically
That's interesting to know. That goes into a little more depth than I was even aware of.
I've been doing this for 20 years, so it's like...
Yeah.
Kevin, there's a reason that Kevin is called the Paranormal Encyclopedia. Because he does know at least a little bit about everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
But no, I get what you mean with the Hermeticism, and that also makes sense, because Hermeticism... magic is one of my weaker subjects, but from what I know, Hermeticism is heavily influenced by Kabbalah.
That's true. It has a huge. Kabbalah is like one of its main. What's the word? Like foundational points.
Yes, I would say that's a perfect word for it.
It's also that mixed with a lot of the ancient Egyptian style of magic and
some Eastern mysticism.
And then from there, it kind of gets more. As you get into more modern eras, it gets more and more. Kind of grab bag, where it's like you get all the splitting off of different cults, I guess, for lack of a better word, but cousins, cults, whatever, what have you. But basically, it's like you have a lot of people who are into the into incorporating all the different methods of contact with the divine. Right, and that goes through pagan routes and through monotheistic routes.
It's like Oprah.
But yeah, like you were saying, it is. It's interesting to mention too, because I just recently learned about this. And I noticed this, and I didn't really understand the reasoning behind this. When a lot of Hermetic magicians talk about Kabbalah, they use a Q instead of a K, and the reason is that they see it as, they're basically referring to it as a different system from the original traditional Kabbalah. Basically because a lot of Hermetics came to rabbis and they're like, what is this? Like, this is not the same thing. You think it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing.
Well, yeah, from what I know, for one, Hermeticism is also aside from, as you said, it's an.
I was just saying that's as far as I'm aware.
I don't know about the CQ thing. The KQ thing. As far as I know, you're right. I haven't looked into it that deeply, but I would say, especially Hermeticism being very much a medieval Renaissance thing, is also heavily influenced by Christian beliefs. So, which is probably at least part of that disconnect between true Jewish Kabbalah and what Hermetics call Kabbalah. I remember reading something once from somebody who called themselves a Kabbalist, and I even want to say they used the Q. And they then claimed that they did Kabbalah divorced from the Old Testament and Jewish religious beliefs. It's like, that doesn't work. In Hermetic sense, it can. and I remember who it was too. It's a particularly weird sect of Kabbalah that
Madonna practice?
yes, Madonna and Britney Spears practice that claims it does.
Oh yeah.
It's Kabbalah without the religious connotation. Wow. It's just like
I shot in the dark at that. I can't believe I was right.
it's so ridiculous. It's like, okay, so you're wearing the red string tied around your finger with no contextual reason why you're wearing a red string around your
the
finger.
Kabbalah for pop stars.
Yeah, it's like that's not Kabbalah. That's superstition.
Yeah,
it's doing it because it's lucky.
Right. No, I mean it's a fascinating system. I mean, once you get into the actual thing itself, it's a very fascinating system of like content. I mean, it's basically a psychoanalytical system in the sense that it's here are all the aspects of humanity as relates to how we think of all the aspects of God, and so it's a way for people to be able to look inward, the microcosm, and then also kind of relate that outward into the macrocosm, into how you look at the rest of the world around you. And I think about how I might want to incorporate sort of more of those ideas into Trailer Park Warlock as I make it, but manage to make that in some like comedic ways. There's a lot of, I think some of the things that are fun about this story is there are so many different weird gags that you can do that sort of form organically.
Like, where did the idea for
and something I'm also going to be like trying to play on in the future is incorporating more aspects of the paranormal, like incorporating like aliens and like
is Jake
conspiracy theories, stuff like that, because all that stuff is like interesting and fascinating to me, and I've been a long listener to paranormal radio shows like Coast to Coast AM, so it kind of comes as a part of my base of inspiration for this story.
I have to ask then, did you ever listen to the Lou Gentili show back in the day?
What's that?
Did you ever listen to the Lou Gentili show?
I can't quite pick out what that word is that you're saying, the last two words.
Lou Gentili.
It's a guy's name.
It's a radio show from the 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, you're talking about Art Bell?
No, the other prominent person aside from Art Bell at the time.
Oh, the other guy. You're talking about George Norrie?
I'm guessing he hasn't heard the show.
I'm saying.
I'm sorry. I think I missed something.
No. So back in I was curious when you said paranormal radio because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I did a paranormal radio show.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, a guy by the name of Lou Gentili.
Oh, you know what? I think I read about this because it's kind of. Was this a guy who was like your kind of a mentor for you?
Yes, he was. Yeah, that would be correct. And I was just curious when you said paranormal radio was an influence. It's like, so did you listen to us?
Apparently not.
It's an old show. I'm not that surprised.
If anything, we could create a new, fresh inspiration.
Is this a show that they have? Do they have like? Do you think that I could find like clips or old airings of it on like YouTube or something?
You can find at least some of it. The big thing that we did that you can find on YouTube is we did an entire week dedicated to the Amityville Horror, all of which is available on YouTube, including some of the last interviews George and Kathy Lutz gave before they died. And as far as I know, we're the only interview that Chris Lutz, one of the three kids, gave. Just look up Amityville Horror Week on YouTube.
Okay.
And yeah, there's some other stuff. I need to probably talk to Lou's wife. I've been trying to run down and see if I can find sources of this stuff on the net because I'd like to try and make it available again, and I'm sure other people would be interested.
Yeah.
But so I'm very curious. One, and forgive me because I'm a nitpicky old man. You know that traditionally the word written on a golem's head is emet, right?
Can you say that again? Which word?
No, the word that's usually written on a golem's head in Hebrew is emet, not the name of God.
Oh. Oh, I see.
Because what it is the word is...
Well, that's a good nitpick, though. It's a good nitpick.
It's a very good... It's a good change, and I love the Earl route. It's fantastic. But the big deal with emet is emet in Hebrew means truth. But if you take the E off, you have met, and met means death. That's why erasing E will kill them.
Yeah.
But again, Earl is
that is
fantastic.
good to know.
I mean, it's just too much fun to have a golem. It's like one of God's true names is Earl. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of death and truth.
The trailer park god.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously.
So, what I was curious about, where did you come up with the idea for something like the rattlesnake, which was just bizarre?
The rattlesnake was like one of the more random ideas. I don't.
Yeah.
I just. I think originally I just really liked the idea of how dangerous a snake with a gun would be, and I wanted to incorporate that into Trailer Park Warlock in some way because
it worked.
It just seemed like an outrageous gag. Because it's kind of tangential to the rest of the motif of the story, but I definitely wanted to create some aspects to the world that kind of hit on the I guess libertine like atmosphere of it, where it seems like just about anything could happen. Like, here's a forest that's full of snakes with guns.
I've had it up to here with these mother effing snakes with these mother effing guns. Somebody had to say it.
Go figure.
And no, I love the rattlesnake. I mean, Amisha and I were driving into work this morning, and I'm reading through the comic. I'm like, wait, that snake has a gun?
And apparently,
the rattlesnake really resonated with a lot of people.
I can believe it.
For reasons that I'm not entirely sure, but it must be hitting some deep instinctive thing in humans where it's like, oh, this is the most dangerous thing I can imagine. Okay.
Well, I think it's kind of like the spitting cobra thing. You think of a poisonous snake, and it's already so deadly. And it's like, yeah, but if I'm out of range, it can't hurt me. And it's like, oh, crap, it has a gun. I'm fucked.
And there you go.
I can't run away fast enough.
Yeah. You don't really get much of a warning other than like a click. It's like the cock of the gun.
Click, boom.
Now, naturally, you draw your inspirations from the occult and varying, I guess, experiences through life. Can you say that you've ever experienced anything paranormal in your existence?
What was the question?
Have you ever experienced anything within the realm of the paranormal yourself?
Have I experienced anything? I couldn't hear the rest of what you said.
Anything in the paranormal realm. Something like necessarily within Kevin's wheelhouse that you would say that you've experienced.
Are you asking if I've experienced anything unusual or paranormal?
Yes.
That what you're asking?
Yeah, yes, Matt, that's the question.
Okay, that was the question? Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of synchronicities in my life. A lot of weird things happening where I'm like, how do these things connect? It seems like there's got to be some kind of outside kind of situation. You know, I don't know how to put it. I'm often a very skeptic person, but I also remain pretty open to whatever kind of weird possibilities are out in the world. Like I know my dad chased a lot of UFOs in his when he was a young kid, and that was like during the 60s and 70s, and that was like, I mean, it wasn't. I guess 50s is when it was really taken off, but 60s and 70s was apparently around that Eric Von Daniken, Jerry the Gods era. There were a lot of people also doing that, and I was never like much into the. I was never much into the paranormal, but I always have been open to the weird experiences that it could open. And by saying I'm not that much into it, that means I don't feel super. I've never really had that many experiences, or I haven't had any experiences where I've seen, what was that? Was that a ghost? Or was that, what the hell was that? I think the weirdest experience I've ever had in my life was what me and my friends can only describe as it was ball lightning. I don't know what else it was. There was like this flash of light that came out of like our friend's backyard, and there was nothing. There was like nothing there. It was just something that happened. It wasn't like a camera flash. It wasn't like any kind of thing where it's like, what in the world happened? And the most logical thing we could sum up was it must have been ball lightning. Like, I don't know what else it could have been.
I'll say this.
That's probably my weirdest experience in my life.
That's pretty darn
so
weird.
Far.
Yeah.
Ball lightning, it's
loaded with nope.
Yeah, scientists, I think they've gotten around to agreeing that it actually exists, because that's a serious debate. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know it exists. But scientists have argued about whether or not it actually existed for decades.
It's like the G-spot. A lot of people won't admit that it exists because they can't find it, and then those that do, they end up realizing what you got.
I'll say this. Ball light, I mean, from first-hand account and second-hand accounts I've heard of this stuff, ball lightning doesn't act like a natural phenomenon.
No, it does not. I've seen it.
A lot of the people I've talked to or read accounts from, it acts like it's intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, case in point, I want to say my grandmother and my great-grandmother on my mother's side was chased by the stuff.
It's very susceptible to what could be called static invariance. If you're dealing with somebody that has a pretty high static charge to them already, it has a tendency to gravitate towards. If you've already discharged yourself or you've already grounded yourself, chances are it's not going to be attracted to you. But the second that you like make any kind of motions or whatever, or modify what I call ambient charge particles within your environment, it will actually draw itself towards you.
Although I do have to question, particularly because of the fact we don't really understand how it happens. And certainly we don't understand how it behaves, because it does behave like something with thought and intention. It's like, I've wondered if it isn't some sort of elemental being.
It could either be an elemental, or it could actually be a spirit that's managed to gather up enough of ambient energy.
Other elementals are just a type of spirit.
I'm talking human spirit.
Particularly given that some ghosts and other nastier spirits can use the ozone in the air during electrical storms to manifest. That, you have a point there.
It's just straight up. It's all about electrical charges and gathering up of opposing magnetic forces. This is the reason why batteries drain. This is the reason why lights have a tendency to act all up, and the reason why there was a spike in hauntings all during the early 20th century. What else started to pop up during the early 20th century? In-house electricity. There you go. Explanation.
Right.
Boom.
There's other things going on that influence, but we have a point.
Yeah.
The other big thing that obviously was happening at that time is the renaissance of the spiritualist movement.
Oh, yeah.
The early particularly World War II era. World War I.
World War I era. Yeah, well, naturally. I mean, if you think about it, if people are starting to notice these things popping up left and right, there are going to be ways that are going to pop up to be able to try and communicate with it. They're going to try and understand it. It's like the new type of back then. That was the experimental instrumentation, or be able to interact. So, of course, yeah, it was a massive renaissance in the spiritual, which in turn, in some cases, made things worse. or didn't work at all.
We'll have to do a whole episode on this at some point.
Oh, yes.
There's so much to be said. We're going to get way too off topic if we do it, but there's so much to be said about, even for example, Thomas Edison was interested in the spiritual.
Oh, yes.
Spirituals have been trying to talk to the dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the few things he actually invented.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the voice recorder that became the EVP box that
the
one
ghost
of our
box.
guests, earlier guests used.
Yep. There you go.
Based on, we had a guest on. Matt, are you familiar with the whole idea of the ghost box or spirit box?
The ghost what?
They call it a ghost box or a spirit box.
I'm not. No.
It's a relatively new idea in the paranormal, but it's based on. I'm guessing you've heard the story that Thomas Edison was interested in talking to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So an engineer, I forget the guy's name, found his plans, and using modern technology in his plans, built this box designed to talk to dead people. The way it works, as I understand it, is what you have is basically a radio, standard AM FM radio, designed to scan through the channels very quickly in the milliseconds in terms of time. And by asking questions, like EVP, you ask questions, you get answers. The big difference is when you do EVP, you ask a question on the recorder, you play the recorder back to get the voice. Here, the voices come through in the static and the skipping of channels.
And on this radio show, believe it or not, what comes through is
like,
the number.
They have to translate it from the static, or like, how audible is it?
I've had one experience where I actually used it on a case, and there it was extremely clear. Like this level of thing, and I've also heard EVP at the same level of clarity you and I are speaking at right now. It's not very common, but it does happen. But it was funny because I had a group of investigators, and we're in this house down in Delaware, and we're all taking turns asking questions in a circle. And every time we had a priest with us, every time he asks a question, we get some form of profanity out of the box.
The box is from Jersey.
No one else, just the priest.
Speaking of which, we actually just hit our halfway mark.
Yes, so we
want to
should
give out the number?
Yeah, just in case if there are any fans out there of the comic that want to call in.
Or fans of the show that have a question for Matt or for us.
Or people that just want to rip into Kevin.
Which is always good. So, folks, if you would like to call in, 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492. I shall point out, as we have in the past, you don't have to wait for us to give out the number. Although we just give it out to remind folks.
Yep.
So
it's always fun.
I have to say I'm curious because the thing that occurred to me with the Lich storyline, and I'm curious if you're using this, and if you're not, may I suggest it as a joke. He's a Lich. He's undead. Shouldn't he have some kind of investment portfolio?
Some kind of what form?
Investment portfolio.
Oh. Yeah, you would think. You would think being around for so long, he would have he'd have some cash on him. I don't know.
He never said he didn't have the money. He might just be tight-fisted.
That's what as Amisha said, he's a deadbeat.
Oh, you're fired.
Amisha said it, I just repeated it.
That makes it double crime because you knew what you were doing.
I am the boss, so you can't fire me.
That's a good one, though. You should use that in the comic.
But it does seem like the obvious, and again, your story, do what you want. But personally, the obvious choice to me is, it's like, oh no, he's got the money. He's a cheap ass.
I think he's just he's a very cheapskate Lich, you know. Yeah. He's a character I want to revisit. I
hope you do.
Future. Sorry, I'm talking about this from a way ahead in the future because I've already written most of the stories that are available right now, and they're going to be available. But yeah, he's a character I want to I want to come back to, just because there's a very interesting appeal with somebody who plays with life and death in that way. I don't know how else to put it, but
Also,
just somebody who's kind of scary but also maybe relatable. At least that's what I'm working on in the next chapter.
I can see that. Also, just on a personal perspective, liches are a sadly underutilized character type
outside of D&D.
This is true. Yeah, there's not a lot of them in stories. I was really glad that I could learn about like another name for a necromancer and a different kind of, necromantic type being.
Mm-hmm.
There's also just like a very caustic sound to the name Lich. Like it just has a very kind of unsettling sound to it anyway.
The word itself
very
means
hard,
something like corpse. I wonder.
very kind of mean sounding in a way. Yeah, I'm really enjoying playing with a lot of the different kinds of characters that are available from esoterica and the occult. There's a lot of different ideas that I'm still trying to noodle around.
I have a suggestion for you then. If you want.
Yeah, what is that?
So, I don't know if you know this or not, or Brian, even if you know this, but the idea of liches is actually an invention of Dungeons and Dragons. There's a couple of things. There's certainly the idea of the undead or immortal sorcerer that predates D&D by a very long time.
Yeah.
But the unique, the Flycida carry, the specific idea of the Lich is D&D. But there's a really neat book that was written for Dungeons & Dragons. You can still find it online, called Von Richten's Guide to the Lich. Now, it's written as a game supplement, obviously, so there's a bunch of useless stat-based stuff. But on top of that, it's also written as an in-universe guide to recognizing liches, how they think, the sort of powers they can have aside from the usual, I cast magic missile. And it has some neat ideas in there that you might find something of value in.
That sounds like good source material to look into. Then, yeah, I'm open to whatever, because I definitely want to keep the spirit of this story to be sort of the unexpected quality of it, which is something I feel like a lot of people kind of gravitate to, because you never know what's going to happen. The beer you drink could cause you to lose all sense of gravity and start floating into space, or you might lose your soul one moment and get it back the next.
I like it.
It is one of the things I like about the comics. Is just he just drank beer and now he's floating up into the air.
And then he becomes a horse balloon.
Yes.
He just untied the blue ribbon of Pabst.
It's good. It's good, especially for somebody like me, where I've read a lot. Aside from knowing the paranormal, I've read a lot of horror and a lot of science fiction, a lot of fantasy. It's a lot of fun to actually be surprised by something and go, "Wait, what?" Sure, why not? That works.
Yeah. Which reminds me, what kind of authors do you like?
Good question.
You were asking what kind of authors do I like in terms of fiction and stuff like that?
Yeah. Like what kind of inspires you?
Well, unsurprisingly, probably, I'm really into Alan Moore.
Not sure.
I'm currently reading through his giant 1,000-page novel right now called Jerusalem, which is like his attempt at imagining existence as a solid, as like some kind of hyper solid. So he goes into like dimensionality, and it's a really interesting book. Another who else am I into? I've been spending so much time reading that one damn book, and I'm just
it sounds like one of those
haven't really had a lot of time to get into other stuff. I'm really in. I also really enjoy Mobius as far as comic books go. Hayao Miyazaki is a personal hero. Osamu Tezuka. Those are kind of that's a pretty good general spread of like artists and writers that I admire and read a lot.
You know of any other comic book writers out in your area? I think I know one.
Any other comic book writers who do what?
That are actually out by you, up in the Washington area, that do web comics.
I do not.
Actually, I think I know like 2 or 3. I know there's one that actually is sort of in your wheelhouse in regards to something of the subject matter. The guy does Anthro Comics. Did a series called Jack by the name of Dave Hopkins. If I were you, I'd seriously check it out.
I was going to say, from a paranormal perspective, talking of Oregon, you have the Oregon Vortex.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It's supposed to be, what, like the most Bigfoot sightings in the country?
Bigfoot's not paranormal. He's just misunderstood.
Oh, Bigfoot's got to make an appearance sometime in the comics, right? Can't have Trailer Park and rednecks without Bigfoot.
Or tornadoes.
Now, also, so your comic also, the first time Amisha mentioned it to me, reminded me there's a role-playing game called East Texas University that actually has an adventure called Red Neck Romancer.
Nice.
And it's
Love
not like a real full-blown necromancer. It's a guy who lives in a trailer park who got his hands on an amulet that lets him raise zombies. But they had to... It's like you got to go with the pun.
It sounded...
Redneck Redemption. Took you a second there, didn't it, Kev? I'm surprised you didn't make that link right off the bat. Bad, Kevin.
But I want the donut.
It'll be a zombie nightmare. Or undead nightmare. Sorry. Copyright. Copyright, copy wrong, what?
Copy something.
Yeah, copy.
Let's see.
So
what else are you working on?
Well, right now, the main thing I'm working on is Trailer Park Warlock, but I also have side projects. I have a project I'm working on right now called Bat Monster that's also released in Webtoon. Bat Monster, like, Trailer Park Warlock is weird and unexpected, and Bat Monster is like me trying to push that even further to where it is, I would describe it as a psychedelic comic. I don't really know how else to describe it. I draw it, my friend Austin Price writes dialogue for it, and we mash it together into a large multi-volume surrealist art show. I don't know how else to put it. It is one of the strangest things I've worked on. And I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to do. But it is. If you asked me to explain to you what it is, I couldn't tell you. If you're into reading something where you're like, what did I just read? Like that's pretty much how I would describe Bat Monster.
Matthew.
And then currently I'm doing drafting and script writing for graphic novels for young adult and middle grade fiction. But I can't really go too much into that right now. And that's about every. And then I also make an autobiographical comic called The Feeling is Multiplied. It's just about me and my family life and raising a child, which is its own topic altogether. As far as writing stories goes, definitely like one of the more interesting things in my life is like raising a kid, because kids just have a totally different outlook on everything in a way that is almost, I would almost describe as like mind altering, because it's like, how did you come up with that? Like, I can't even, like, as a person who's into creative ideas and stuff, I'm just like, wow, where does it even come from?
Yeah.
Kids are something special.
Yeah, you get somebody that says,
Yeah,
I
they
just
really-
took LSD, and they were like, oh, screw you, I got a 4-year-old. They look at you, and they'll be like, wow.
Yeah, watching comments from my friends who have small children. It's like the random, weird, but so in many ways philosophically deep things toddlers say.
Or what's worse, trying to have a phone conversation with somebody that has toddlers. Good luck.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, because I feel like in a lot of ways, like, as children get older, they sort of get into this place where they're in between two worlds, which is like the world of the child, which is sort of this more in touch with nature and reality, and then like the world of the child becoming an adult, which is this sort of coming into the reality of humans collectively working together or doing their communal things or whatever. And they're two very different worlds in a lot of ways.
They are.
You see that disconnect often as like kids get older and start questioning things and just like, why do you do things this way? Why is it like this? Like, can you explain to me, adult, like, what is going on here?
It's when why becomes their favorite word.
Well, the whole nature of the way children see the world is so different. Like, one way I remember reading not long ago that I find very interesting. And the thought is, when you're a stage magician doing a trick for a kid, it's like, it's harder to surprise them than adults, because especially to a small child, everything is magic. You flick a switch on the wall and suddenly there is light. You push a button on the plastic thing and the TV comes on and you have somebody talking about something. And so it's like making something just appear out of thin air. It's like, yeah, that's just the way things work.
And then when you say Alexa, it actually does make things work.
Although I will also say, both for your benefit and the benefit of any parents out there listening, and I know at least one is, because I can see her on the Facebook chat, little kids out there, the trope you see in so many horror movies, including Amityville, of the imaginary friend isn't so imaginary. Yeah, that's not so much a trope as life.
Yeah, that actually is a thing.
It's fair to say the majority of the time, even the monsters children see under the bed and in the closet aren't actually monsters. Are not necessarily evil spirits. A lot of times, what kids see is angels, or past loved ones who've died, or even ancestors. People they had that maybe your great grandmother, something like that. But you're a little kid and you see some weird-looking old lady peeking out at you from the closet in the middle of the night. You kind of freak out a little.
Just a bit. Especially if she wants to give you candy.
And what would your grandmother want to do with her grandson, except especially a little kid? But here, have some candy.
Yep. Pinch your cheeks and try and feed you. Don't you want to give Granny a kiss?
Give us a kiss.
Give us a kiss. Channeling my old Bill.
It's fascinating to see how in early childhood development there's so much. It's interesting to see how all their actions, which sort of convey to me the idea that there are these sort of intense built-in instincts that kids have, like learning to play chase is like, in my mind, seems clearly like a long-standing instinctive habit that children have done for centuries to learn how to run, or say centuries, millennia, epochs, whatever, to run from predators, to run from the big dangerous thing. And it's like in the same way that you see like cubs fighting each other to learn how to fight, and all that stuff. It's really interesting to think about. Oh, okay, these are like all the little ways in which the universe, or however you want to call it, works through human beings from the early stages on up.
I never even thought about that, but yeah,
I
that
find that
makes
stuff
sense.
all really fascinating.
I'd really like to know what evolutionary stage channeled the idea that a kid is meant to wake up exactly 15 minutes after you've fallen asleep. And not only wake up, but wake up
That's a good question.
loud.
See, I think that's just one of those times that someone, maybe God, I'm thinking Satan, tinkered with evolution a little bit just to screw with humans.
No, that's a god. That's God. You just made my job a little bit harder by adding more people onto the earth. This is your payback.
I don't know, waking you up so you're angry and more miserable at work seems like a devil thing to do, too.
It's a test of faith. That's God. Right?
That could be either way. They both do that one.
Yeah. At the same time. They're tag teaming us.
But no, I never even thought about, when you look at how kids play, it's like, there's definitely, it makes sense there'd be an evolutionary element to tag, things of that nature. Just something I never, maybe just because I've never had a kid, I never thought about, well, wait, why do we do those games? I mean, it's really those games, there are certain games, tag, hide and go seek, that are so ingrained on a cultural level.
I never played.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know. I never played tag. I never really had friends growing up.
I've done tag. We did tag. We did hide and go seek.
But then again, I also managed to survive through. Maybe that's what creates mortality. Play. You want somebody to grow up immortal like me? Make sure they have no friends and they never learn how to play.
He really is kind of. You've been struck by lightning multiple times,
blown up. Brain cancer, heart attack. Point. Yes, I've been stabbed. Fallen off of buildings, been hit by cars.
See, we don't just keep him around because he's a hypnotist. We keep him around because if there's an accident, we can let it happen to him. He'll survive it, and everybody's happy.
Yeah. I draw all the injury in my direction. I am a walking tank.
Yeah.
In the party, I'm the one they send in screaming Leroy Jenkins because chances are I'm going to be the one that survives. And I can do the Leroy Jenkins voice.
Of course you can. I'm not even surprised.
Of course you're not. It's me.
This is true.
I'll tell you this. One of the first things Kevin said when I first started coming on to this show is he said, I have supervillain origins.
You really do.
Yeah.
Write me into a comic and see how that pops up.
League of Evil Ethical Hypnotists. You are an evil supervillain. It's on your card. I've seen the card.
Yes, I do have a card that says it. Member 001, but I'm not the founder. The founder has his own card. It's gold.
000?
Damn Skippy.
Unfortunately, we are coming up on the end of our time.
Oh, fiddlesticks. For once, you're the only one that dropped an F-bomb tonight.
Yes. So, Matt, you have mentioned that your newest comic is coming out tonight. Do you plug that again and anything else you got coming in the works shortly that people can check out?
Sure. So, Trailer Park Warlock was the comic we've all been talking about here, and you can find it, for anybody who's interested in reading it, you can find it on Webtoon, which you can download as an app on your phone, or you can access on the computer at webtoon.com and just search Trailer Park Warlock. Also, if you're interested in Bat Monster, you can find Bat Monster in the same methods. And then finally, thefeelingismultiplied.com is the other site that you can go to check out my work. For any of this stuff, you can also go to mattjrainwater.com. Those are all of my internet-related things that you can check out if you're interested in checking out my work.
That's how I found it.
Links will be in the
I want to thank you all for having me on tonight. It's been a pleasure. Had a lot of fun.
I'd love to talk to you further about mesmerism.
Sorry for all the gremlins that have been kind of interfering with some of our conversation tonight.
It's the nature of paranormal radio, trust
I've been
me.
enjoying it.
We haven't even hit the big time gremlins that come with this gig yet.
Yeah, that happens later.
No, back in the day doing the radio show, we had things like the power going out, stuff getting knocked off
Oh my
shelves, unexplained voices showing up in the audio recording.
Like me.
No, I remember one of the more memorable times that Kit knocked the show out entirely, turned the power off. We're talking about the most infamous of all actual dolls, Annabelle. And the power went out, the show went off, and just before it all went sideways, people could hear a little girl laughing in the stream.
Yeah, that's nope.
Yeah.
That's loaded with nope. But anyways,
we need to plug our last sponsor and then get out of here so the next show can come in.
Fantastic.
Take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that some of us have browser histories we're not exactly too proud of, or we're kind of like, I don't want anybody to know where I'm going. And we also live in areas that tend to be region locked with certain content that we can't access because, let's face it, some countries don't allow certain websites to be accessed. Well, NordVPN, one of those great services that are out there that can really help you out with such a thing, is there for you. This thing has military-grade encryption, which, let's face it, okay, I could bang my head against it because I used to work DoD defense, and even I can't crack it, and I don't wanna. And, it'll mask where you're at, it'll keep your stuff safe, it doesn't save anything, so thank goodness for that, and it's affordable. So check it out, seriously. You won't regret it. I use it. Kevin's used it.
Kevin uses it.
Oh, there you go. He uses it. Me, I just stay off the internet.
I got a year worth of membership. Of course I use it.
There you go. So seriously, check it out. You won't regret.
Yep, links in the description.
Yep, as they are always.
Remember to tune in next week. We don't know what we're talking about yet.
We'll figure it out.
We'll announce that on the Facebook. We don't have a guest at the moment scheduled. That may change.
It'll be a surprise.
Yep.
Or who knows? Actually, believe it or not, I think there are wings in the future.
Yes, we still need to do your hot. So, Matt, something worth checking out when it happens, possibly next
dear
week,
God.
is Chris here volunteered that if we hit 500 subscribers, he's going to do the Hot Wings Challenge on air. We hit 500 subs, so he's got to own up.
You still there, Matt?
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yep, you're still here. And that makes it 7:30, so we should get going.
Yep.
Okay, folks, thank you for joining us, as always. It's been a lot of fun. This is your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist, saying good night and God bless.
Brian McKinley saying keep your fangs sharp.
And this is Baron Voltage saying avoid lightning rods and for God's sakes never make a bet involving 500 subscribers and hot wings.
Good night, y'all.
Have a good night, everyone. God
Good
bless.
night, everybody.
Okay.
And are we good to... I give y'all a great salute because you're an awesome audience.
Yes. We love our audience.
We do. They're
Even
great.
with the torture they're subjecting you to. Are we clear? Oh.
This is why I'm saying, hello, my baby. Hello,
Hello,
my
my
honey.
honey.
Hello,
Hello,
my
my
Leroy Jenkins.